And there's many times where we might feel like, am I going crazy as we begin morphing into these new versions of ourselves? And if you go to a Western doctor, they'll put you on meds and say something's wrong with you. A mystic will be clapping hands going, welcome to your awakening. One of the things I noticed is, we want the awakening, we want the enlightenment, we want to be here, but bodies are not ready for it. So when it comes to fast, and then we become dysregulated. So unless we have our tools in place, a really good container moving into these medicines is to be taken with integrity and reverence and allow the opening to happen and be unattached to how that unfolds.
Hello, you beautiful souls. Welcome to the Praise of Some podcast. We're honored to have on my guest, Lynda Samphire. Lynda, how you doing?
Oh, I'm amazing. And I'm so excited to be here and have this conversation with you. Thank you.
Excellent. Yes, me too. I loved learning about you from Nina. Nina sent you my way, and I was like, oh, I would love to talk to this person. So yes, I'm very excited. So for the people who are not familiar with you and what you do, could you give us a brief explanation on who you are and what you do now?
Yeah, I'm a transformational and intuitive guide. I work with bringing people back to their own remembering and igniting their own, becoming back to that soul co-creator, coming back to the self. And that's what I do.
And how did you awaken to that? How did you get into that?
Yeah, that's the question, right? How do I
Yeah.
get into this? Yeah. My journey began early, and it began with an early loss. My mother died when I was 2. And so growing up, I couldn't really name it. I had this functioning anxiety and functioning depression moving through me as my grief was just kind of sitting in there festering. And it would show up like kind of learning in that survival mode where we're earning, proving ourselves, doing more and more, and looking really capable and strong on the outside, but completely anxious and disconnected in the inside and not really feeling safe. So I kind of chased healing, right? I take this course and take that course. And eventually I moved into plant medicine, and I started the remembering. And so coming through this remembering process is what really brought me to this work. So
I didn't hear the first half. I'm sorry. Who passed away?
my mother.
Okay, your mother passed, and that's
When I was 2, yes.
Okay, and that opened the doorway for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what was like the thing that started that remembrance process? Was it something with plant medicine, or this? Like, what was that first doorway?
When you feel like there's just something more out there, there's just something more for you. And I'd spent so much time in this struggle survival mode that it was, it just gotten to that point where I just surrendered completely into myself. And it did work as a, training for transpersonal hypnotherapy. I had a degree in psychology. And I was obsessed with the mystic in human behavior. And it just unfolded. And then the plant medicine came in. And that's when my remembering came in. And that's when everything fell into place for me.
Okay. So how did plant medicine make its way into your life?
I was working with a woman, and she's a channeler. And she designed this yoga series for me to start opening up channels. And she says, I don't know what it is, but I just see psychedelics. And I'm like, okay. And it was 2 months later, I had a woman come into my life because I was looking for a safe avenue, a safe path to work with these medicines. She came in, and then a medicine woman came in, and it just found me and began unfolding from there.
Okay. So a lot of people make their way into finding various different plant medicines. There's ayahuasca, there's psilocybin, San Pedro. There's a wide range of them. Knowing what you know now, do you feel like it was like intentional, like more like a synchronicity rather than a coincidence that the specific first plant medicine that came to you was supposed to be what it was?
Yes,
Mm.
1000%. Psilocybin came in first. And really, as an ally, as a teacher, not as a fixing. I mean, when I first went into it, I'm like, oh, this is the answer. But then became the roller coaster and the teaching and the really going within. And so psilocybin really helped me knock on those emotional doors that were needed cracking open and begin working through that. I moved then into 5-MeO and working with that medicine, and then eventually coming into Amanita Muscaria. Have I worked with San Pedro and all those? Most definitely. But the three that have always called to me are psilocybin, Amanita, and then the 5-MeO.
Ah, so when you say 5-MeO, I know it's ingested in various ways, right? There's bufo, which is the frog. And what are the other ways that people use it?
Well, ethically, we do use the synthesized version of 5-MeO. Jaguar medicine is what I work with, only because us being humans, we love overconsumption. And so the overuse and the toads are getting depleted. So ethically, I work with Jaguar medicine, and I work with it on a very light doses, where we start working with the inner pieces of ourselves, those hidden places and crevices that we might have bypassed had we worked with a stronger medicine or a higher dose, or just even in life in general. So that medicine is so somatic. It's a subtle remembering, and it carries this power of healing and guidance. I did start out on higher doses. And that was pretty profound. It really opened everything up. However, I went back then and studied with my medicine woman, and we developed my ascension program, where we used very small doses. It's a 5-month program, and it really went in and opened up those little crevices that I had bypassed, the cobwebs that needed to be integrated and worked through and opened up, so that full remembering, that full space of consciousness could begin opening and unwinding. And then divine wisdom had the room to come through me and live in my humanism and being connected to spirit at the same time.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
5-MeO is something that I definitely came up in my life a few times. I just haven't taken that step, and because of this very question that I'm going to ask you. So, context is I've worked a lot with psychedelics in the past. When I got out of the military, I had really bad PTSD, so I worked a lot with ayahuasca to work on that. My question to you is that when it was suggested for me to work with 5-MeO, they told me you should just take a breakthrough dose. And knowing what I know about psychedelics, what I found has worked when I've like suggested to people, I'm like, I actually think like just incrementally like just taking it one step at a time has been like really powerful and valuable from the people that I suggested using, because I had no idea how strong ayahuasca was. So even as someone who worked with psilocybin in the past, it was still like, whoa, like, whoa, this is like intense stuff. And the people who I've talked to about 5-MeO, they said they recommended, like, they're like, I think you get more out of it if you do a meditative dose, because you get to like be in both places to like still be able to work here rather than this and God consciousness.
We're not all ready for that.
Right, exactly. So what are your thoughts on like just kind of taking, incrementally?
It's really interesting, because I'm one of the ones that started out full on. Let's just go into it. I mean, I titrated up. However, I received just this intuition, this message about 2 years ago that we're really coming to this time that we need a feminine approach with these medicines. And they're relational. They're not passive. They're relational. And so I feel like if we develop a relationship with the medicines, then they're going to work with us completely differently. It's not going to, I mean, we're always going to go into these larger doses with a sense of fear, which is normal. However, not so dysregulating. And I found that if we can appreciate our body embodiment, then we have a safe home to return to after we've blasted out. I think a lot of us are living halfway out of our body because it feels so uncomfortable in the body. We're out of rhythm. And when we work on a small dose and kind of titrate up and bring in, we develop the relationship one with the medicine, and we begin balancing the yin and yang, the masculine, the feminine, and the ego and the soul and the spirit, so that, like I said, divine wisdom comes in and we have a safe body to return back to. And that's where I think the important part is. It took me a good 3-4 years to develop a pretty nice relationship with 5-MeO. And the integration period was really big. So looking at it now and working with, through the Ascension program that I created, it is so much more powerful because we're empowered, we're embodied, and we have a relationship with this medicine. So we're working with an ally, a teacher. And yeah, so that's my way of serving the medicines, how I feel we should be serving it right now. And that's normally the clients that come to me. Way it works really well. So yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's hard to think that we don't need a divine feminine approach at the moment when, you know, the planet has been really masculinely dominated since the beginning of time, you know, like, so yeah, I completely understand that. When you first started working with plant medicine, was the effects immediate and that you kind of was like able to process some things that were unable to be processed? Or was it kind of like year 1, year 2, year 3, or was it like kind of like a rapid growth and then the usual, we continue to work with it?
Yeah, you know, I was going into it so naive. I began microdosing psilocybin, and you know, my big intention, because it's really good to have intentions with this medicine, was just I just want to connect with my most powerful self. And the first month was beautiful, and it's like, wow, look at all this coming through. And then all of a sudden, I started hitting a lot of that functioning anxiety and depression that had been sitting there, and the grief over the loss of my mother at age 2. And I started getting tired, and I started feeling the heaviness. And it's not that the medicine's not working. It's actually, that means it is working. We just can't bypass that. So when I went then full on into the 5-MeO, the Jaguar, I've never cried more that first year than I did on plant medicine. I was like, am I ever going to stop crying? And so I guess that's why I love the smaller doses, because we get a taste of what it means to be waking up. And there's many times where we might feel like, am I going crazy, as we begin morphing into these new versions of ourselves. And if you go to a Western doctor, they'll put you on meds and say something's wrong with you. A mystic will be clapping hands going, welcome to your awakening. And one of the things I noticed is, you know, we want the awakening, we want the enlightenment, we want to be here, but our bodies are not ready for it. So when it comes to fast, and then we become dysregulated. So unless we have our tools in place, a really good container, I feel like moving into these medicines is to be taken with integrity and reverence and allow the opening to happen and be unattached to how that unfolds. I might have totally gone off your question there, but yeah.
No, I love that, because this is actually something that I reflect and think on quite often. Because I mean, substances like 5-MeO are really strong. And if you have like the reality that you've been living in day to day, constantly, nonstop, and then you shift into something as grand as that, the reintegration period could be quite difficult, because the fundamental way that you create your perception of yourself in reality is based upon what you believe before this experience. And now that you have new information and data and new experience to integrate into this one, it's, if you're not ready for that, it's going to be difficult. It's I get it.
Yeah. I mean, our identity is hooked to the conditioning as much as we
Yeah.
don't want it. And all of a sudden we're like, well, wait, who am I now? And there's times I'm literally just like sitting there going, I feel like my body is morphing right now. And this feels really weird. However, since I've been in the healing arts for over 20 years, I kind of had those tools to do it. But yeah, it's it's like, wait a minute, I don't want this, but this is my knowing, and you're stepping into the unknown.
Exactly. Yeah. So how was that for you? Was that first 5-MeO like straight there, like breakthrough straight there, or was it more like a subtle kind of experience initially?
Well, I'm going to explain it, and everybody's
Yes.
going to go, "Oh, I want to do that. I want to do that." Because my first one was a lighter dose, and I was in the presence, like I'm seeing angels, like I see you, and I see trees. You're right. I was surrounded by humongous angelic forms.
I forgot that we should probably first explain what that is for people who don't know what that is. Completely forgot about that. What exactly is 5-MeO?
It's the God molecule, right? The jaguar medicine, the ego dissolution is what it's called. So it's a very quick medicine where you go into it and you feel like it's primal and you've been in there for thousands and thousands of years, and it's been maybe 9 minutes. So yeah, it's a medicine of subtle remembrance or big remembrance in it. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Wow. Okay. So go ahead and continue.
Yeah.
Because just that alone is just like, that's quite like, to feel like you've been somewhere thousands of years, but it's only been a couple of minutes.
It lets you know that our conception of time and how time doesn't exist.
Oh yeah.
Because I literally came out of it going, how long was that? And she's like, at my first one, she's like 7 minutes. I'm like, oh my God, I felt like I just went through thousands of years. And it wasn't a full release session. However, when I came out of it, being surrounded in the presence of angelic forms was beautiful. And they looked at me and they said, you are always right here, always. And there is never anything to worry about. And at the time, it sounds so powerful and big. But then when the ego comes in, it's like, is that all you have for me? Like, you don't have like, do this, do that. But it was beautiful. Now, when I moved into my larger dose, that one was a full release. I don't remember much of it. I did videotape it, so it was interesting. And from there, everything changed. And this is not a common, my medicine woman, this hasn't happened to everyone, she said. For 4 months, I was woken up every night from 1 to 4, my body vibrating, and I had different beings, different realms, meeting different people. One night I heard, we're going to show you the vibration of love now, and my body started vibrating. And this continued on for about 4 months every night. And at first it was really, really scary. And my medicine woman just kept telling me, this is a gift. This is a gift. Welcome it. And I'm like, I just need to sleep. And so I didn't touch any medicine after that for quite a while. And I have not done a large dose of 5-MeO. However, I'm headed to a retreat in October where I'm going to then meet the medicine again and feel like I have a different relationship with it. So
When you say you were woken up, so it was like you were sleeping and then you woke up and then you saw the beings in your room, or like how
mm-hmm,
did that happen? Oh wow.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it was crazy. I was like, oh my gosh, as I'm staring at a gold being in the middle of an infinity grid, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, when I talk about it, people are probably going like, okay.
Yeah.
And it was, I'd be like talking to my husband the next morning, well, guess what I saw last night? And guess what I saw tonight? And he's like, okay. Yeah. So it was, and I was awake. Um, I had teachers come in. I had, and then at one point, there was one day during the day where I was in my kitchen and I sneezed 3 times and I started speaking light language, which was what one of the beings was doing that I met during my sleep state. So it was a full awakening process for me. Really, really quick, really, really fast. And it took me a while to not feel fear from the medicine and to not fear the enlightenment process, right? Yeah. My channeling exploded open. So everything I asked for sure came forward, but it felt very different than I anticipated because we don't anticipate not being able to take our old identity with us. Like you're coming into a new person that's getting to know you. So
Yeah, can we talk briefly about like identity and that the work that I find the most interesting is with Dr. Joe Dispenza, where he's taking people into these meditative states and they're curing incurable diseases and stuff. And I'm always fascinated by that change that happens, because on the outside their body looks the same, but clearly there's something that's happening internally that's facilitating that change. And he said it comes down to their personality, and their personality creates their personal reality. So that's your identity. So what is it about that identity shift, when you left and came back, that you couldn't hold with you? Was it like the way that you thought of yourself, some habits? Like what was it that you had to leave behind?
it was the struggle and survival through life and how this is not how we're meant to live. But then it's like, well, how do you live? How do you fully come into trusting in yourself, right? And so the conditioning that we're put through and that puts upon us also acts as a safety mechanisms. And our nervous system's very built around that. So on a cellular level, we're shifting. We're becoming aware of how powerful we are. We do have the power to heal our own body if we have the belief system to follow, which that's really difficult. So we stop outsourcing and we go inwards. And that's when we begin working on developing the trust within ourselves and the faith. And these experiences are amazing, and all mine were, but they didn't do it for me. I still had my own work to do and to move through. And it became this profound sense of trust within and faith, right? What is my faith? What do I believe in that's going to serve me? What are the parts of the identity that I do want to bring forward? What are that I don't? And that I'm choosing a timeline in a sense, right? To move into. And the connection to something larger, our own highest wisdom, is very powerful. So when we're locked in the conditioning, it's almost, I feel, a nervous system safety, like keeping us protected and safe there. My dream world is incredibly powerful. And I remember having a dream of a wolf, and the wolf was thin and tired and starving. And so I'm looking at myself, well, that's me. I'm the wolf, and I'm take the wolf and I begin nurturing and feeding. So tired of protecting me, right? Part of that nervous system, so tired as protecting and just saying, you know, take a nap. It's okay. So it's about giving ourselves permission to surrender into ourselves. And then that's when our soul can speak. And a lot of times that comes into our dream world and wakes up there first.
As you were saying surrender, I was saying it in my mind, and
Oh, yeah.
I was saying I need to ask her a question about surrender. And then you said
Yes.
surrender. So let's talk about surrender, because this has been something that I feel like is like in the current arc of my life of something that I'm trying to work on getting better at. I know the process of surrender always feels so counterintuitive to the ego, but it is literally the gateway to divinity, to all the things that you actually want to receive in life. It just feels so hard to the ego, though. It feels, it just doesn't want to do it,
Yeah.
So,
No, we need to
yeah,
control it. Do. Action, action, action. Yeah.
exactly.
So the surrendering, it's funny you say that, because that's a thing for me too that I have to constantly remind myself of. And when I was working with jaguar medicine on a very small dose, I remember using, and I call them wands, and I used the wand and I just said, okay, I completely surrender into you, body. Whatever you need to do, you do. You're in charge. And there was this breath and this little like zing that went up, and I just kind of let go, and the body got to move, and my pinky started moving. I didn't question it. I didn't try to figure it out. And I think surrendering is just not needing to figure out anything, but just coming in and allowing. And you feel it when you feel it. And there's this space that you get to where it's like, oh, crap, everything's here. Everything's in here. And we know that, we hear it, but you know it and you feel it. And that's when you surrender in. And I always go back to that first time when I was in the presence of the angelic forms and they said, you're always here. And that supports me some in that surrendering. So surrendering is letting go of the control. Not that we're not going to, we're humans, right? We have our humanism. However, the recovery and the responding from that is the power. And then we're in the flow of freedom, right? We're in the flow of freedom.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was well said. So the angel said that you're always here, as in you're always in that dimension, that space that they're in.
Yeah, you're always right here, they said. You're just right here. And we look at that as, we're the co-creators and we're always creating and we're everything and we're the mirrors and what timeline are we choosing? And it all folds into that.
Right. What's some of the illumination or education that you received from these beings about like the actual nature of what's happening here? Because if you're always there, but your perception is that you're here, what is reality? What is actually happening?
Well, that's the conditioning, right? That we're not in charge, that we're looking outside of ourselves. So there's the mirror of chaos within that is reflected back. We are shifting, we are changing. Everything that's happening right now is like sediment coming to the surface so we can see it. As much as we judge it and try to fix it and try to shift it and control it, that's the resistance. So it feels like our world right now is in this big, tight, resistant ball. And if we just all pay attention to ourselves and not everybody else and surrender into that, things would begin to unfold. I have had messages that we are moving into that. And that's why what's happening now is so heart-wrenching and chaotic and oppressive, right? So if we can remember that we are in charge of what we choose. And, that question is, well, why would I choose that? Why would I choose this? We're always going to be confronted with what we don't want, so we know what we do want. We would never know. There's the polarities, the dualities of life, and that's how we learn and that's how we experience. Once we're connected to self, these experiences that we deem as bad or not good are really like, oh, now I know what I do want. And so we're working with that, and that's the ego and the soul, right? That's the dark and the light. You can't have one without the rest. And it is our experiences. We're just in resistance and judging it. And I don't want it to sound like we just all walk around with like, okay, well, this is happening. That's not how it works. There are warriors here. There are healers here. There are people that are drawn to what they're here to do, and these experiences bring them forward.
Well said. Is there any type of is there any type of like ultimate goal that the universe or the creator is trying to get to, for us to experience every individual thing that we do from the way that we do? There has to be a greater overall picture, right? Like, is there some type of bigger narrative that's happening? We only see our individual lives, but no one exists, everything is interconnected. So, there's always things happening. So like, what's the overall goal, if that was presented to you? That
Most definitely. Yeah, we're going to love this one. It's to feel. It's to remember to feel. It's the emotions. We came here because we get to be emotional beings, and that is how we evolve. That is how we learn. We just have forgotten. And so, we're like, oh, the earth is in trouble. The earth is fine. Like, she'll just kick us all off and be great, right? It's here for ourselves and to continue the evolution of the human soul. The soul wants experiences. The soul is infinite. So it's just going to continue moving and through the continuum. So it's really about learning to work with our emotions. We're taught that, oh, it's not good to be angry. It's not good to be sad. And these medicines bring us back to feeling. And that's the uncomfortable part, but that's the part of how we evolve. And that is really why we're here, as we master our own emotions. So if we'd make it more about ourselves and not trying to fix everybody else outside of us so that we feel okay, we'd start kind of getting it.
I think that was like a major epiphany for me as well. On one of my psychedelic trips, is that like your feeling is turned way up. And because of that, I was able to feel all of my body, including things that were clearly like some type of, I don't know, attachment or stuff. Like, I was able to feel things that didn't belong to me through that process, and able to purge it out as well. But I wouldn't have even been aware of that energy without the help of psychedelics, to be able to feel my body in that way much more deeply.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you.
Isn't that powerful too? And
Yeah.
It's interesting how uncomfortable it is to feel. Like, it's so overwhelming. It's like,
It's terrifying sometimes.
I remember that when I was in bed and they said, now we're going to show you the energy and power of love. And my body vibrated. It was so uncomfortable. It was too much for the body to hold, right? Because it's so powerful. And our feelings are so powerful. And it's like, we've been conditioned to not be angry. Like, of course we're going to get angry, right? So, yeah, power of feelings.
Is some of what, on some level, when we think about love, is some of that kind of like from the perceived detachment that we have from like all of that love on the other side? Because it just seems like the reoccurring thing with some types of love here is that we're always chasing this thing, we're chasing this feeling. And it always, like, on one of my journeys, I'm like, you know, like all the stuff that we experience is like nowhere near like what is actually like what I was experiencing on that connection there. You know, it's just like, it's so powerful that it's kind of like you're kind of chasing the very self-love that you have from within, that you're in this game. So you think like, oh no, I don't have no love. But like the most powerful love is that self-love. It's so overwhelming. So I don't know if I answered my own question, but yeah, go ahead.
No, that's the most powerful part of the medicines is
Yes.
they show us the energy of love. I held space for a gentleman, a 91-year-old Episcopalian priest with terminal bone cancer, afraid to die. And so he wanted to do a mushroom journey. And I said, okay, I'll do this end of life with you. And he came out of it. And the miracle for him was love. He says, it's just all love. That's all it is. And he passed 2 weeks later on a snowy day, which was his favorite. But he felt so safe then crossing over. And they bring back, I keep saying this word, but the remembering, not the fixing, not the chasing, not trying to outsource everything. And if I just get this, then I'll feel okay. And if I just do this and I just do this, it's the feeling right within and the power of what love really is. And for him, that's all he needed. And the fear subsided.
Wow, that reminds me of that one story of I can't remember what the situation was, but like someone had cancer and it was like able to see the cancer in their body, and I was like, get out of there.
Yeah.
Get out of there. And then
Yeah. And what's the resistance? What's the grief? What's the
yeah,
guilt? What's the resistance in there that's feeding that?
yeah,
And when that's let go, it expands. Yeah. And there's back to Joe Dispenza showing us how powerful we are
yeah,
in our bodies, but we really need to move, expand this
yeah.
through. And that's why I like psilocybin, because it kind of knocks on those doors and say, hey, you ready to take a look?
So what's the primary differences between the psilocybin and Amanita muscaria?
I love that you asked that. Amanita muscaria, first of all, has become my most used medicine, which I never thought. And that's the red and white, the red mushroom with the white dots. Amanita muscaria, I feel, is the medicine of the moment. She has come in, she works with our GABA receptors, and she kind of is in the background of the psychedelic work, because psychedelic works with our serotonin pathways. And so she works with GABA. GABA directly is our central nervous system. So think of the glutamate GABA system. We're walking around with the gas pedal down on the car, and that's the glutamate. And that's the on switch to the brain, and it's never coming off. So our GABA is exhausted. It's not working. Amanita muscaria, after being processed in a certain way, becomes agonist to GABA. The brain grabs onto it, pedal comes off, and there's a soothing over the central nervous system. So where we're at right now, we need restoration in the body. I start all my clients out on Amanita first, then we bring in the psilocybin. So we could look at it as Amanita tills the soil and psilocybin aerates. We're working with 2 different receptors. So okay to work together. If anybody's working with Ascension, they have Amanita with it. My retreats, we start with fire ceremony, connecting to our ancestors, and Amanita tea to ignite our dream world. She's bringing us back to sleep. We're sleeping again. We're dreaming again. And I studied with an African Sangoma last summer. And in the Kosa tribe, if we're not even remembering our dreams, we're sick. And if we're sick, the whole village is sick, the whole tribe, the whole community. And so you're taken in by the elders till you remember again. So she brings back sleep. She brings back restoration. She gets that nervous system, the central nervous system soothed. So we're coming out of fight or flight into rest and digest. Then psilocybin can come in and do the work.
That was like perfect. I learned so much.
Mhm.
um, do you find it interesting that there's been like historical tribes that like this was like integrated into their society, like this is like a coming of the age type of thing, like what about like will we ever get there again? Like
Right. Yeah,
when
modernized.
we yeah, when
Modernized.
reality and how we all interact with each other will be so different.
I believe so. I don't know if it's going to happen in our lifetime, but from everything that I've received, we are heading in that. It just may not look like that. Yes, I truly believe that our dream world in the ancestral, in our ancestors, that's how they discovered the medicines. Like it came through in the dreams. And now I feel the medicine is guiding us back to our dream world, back to what you just said. Will we ever get back there? It'll look different as it always does. But so when spirit through our dreams guided us to the medicines are the spirit guiding us back to ourselves, back to our dream world, back to healing.
Yeah, I that's kind of been the reoccurring thing that I've been hearing from a lot of people that I've had on the show as well, is that we're definitely clearly moving in a trajectory where these things will be more commonplace. And I mean, looking at how the regulations, like in Colorado, I think it's legal, right, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like clearly we're making some type of progress in that direction. So those are exciting things.
Yeah. We'll look at though that there's going to be, we have the pharmaceutical world too, kind of wanting to get in there. The one thing I love about Amanita Muscaria is she has a mycorrhizal relationship with the trees. So it's an exchange of minerals and water. She can only be grown that way. You cannot synthesize her. You cannot grow her inside like you can psilocybin. And she mainly grows with like birch and pine and fir and spruce. And so she's very special. She's an elder. She's old, and she's been here. She's in the Bible. She's in petroglyphs and caves. And so, as much as she's in the background, she's kind of that gatekeeper of all the mushrooms. And so, it's interesting to me that she's just now becoming in the forefront with all these medicines. So, I think she's kind of a guide back to the other medicines, but is asking us to please restore our body first before, our nervous system, before we go into these other medicines where thousands of years ago, we were okay to just go into an ayahuasca journey right away. Like we prepared for it through our lives to go into that. So
Still, once again, learning. Wow, so is that the only one that's like that? Like it has to be grown on a tree? Like, are there any other things that cannot be synthesized? Like they have to be in their specific environment?
I'm sure there is, but not that I'm aware of at this moment. And she grows in the ground under the trees, right?
Right.
One of the things, though, when things start getting synthesized, is we're losing a connection to the forest.
Oh yeah.
Right, we're losing, and so she's definitely a forest. I mean, she brings in that piece, and the mushrooms, psilocybin, they act within us, like they do in the forest. That mycelial connections are working through the body and bringing us back to our oneness. So I think synthesizing, it's going to take something out. Again, I'll go back to 5-MeO, where ethically we want to use the synthesizing because we're overusing and overglandulating the toad.
Yeah. Wow. That is something I think about as well with the toad. Because, I mean, yeah. Obviously, I think that's the most potent form of it, right? Or can it also be as strong synthesized?
I don't know. I use Jaguar the whole time, the synthesized version.
Oh, okay.
I think one of the things we look at is one, if it's over the glands or over glandulated, think about when we eat food. And if we're working with an animal or something that's been in fear mode the whole time, we're actually going to ingest that fear. So if something is overused, overconsumed, and kept caged, then we're actually going to be ingesting that energy. So mushrooms, they're plentiful. They've got it. But the toad, going over to like a synthesize the jaguar, you're getting very clean and not as musty. So I always have just done that because of the energy it's taking, and where we're sourcing is so important because of that. So it's still, even though it's synthesized, where we're sourcing it is important.
Yeah, no, that was an excellent point. Thank you for bringing that up. Is the Amanita very, I know it's working on the nervous system, but is it also very psychoactively? Like,
Oh, you can definitely have an experience of taking too much. It's pretty uncomfortable.
okay.
It's not one of those ones I really advise unless you're under extreme care. I remember my medicine woman shared with me that she did. She says, I just don't, not even for you, Lynda. I don't advise it. It's a dissociative, and you're in paralysis. And a lot of times people have said, I mean, yes, there are these big experiences. However, it can keep us in this looping that never finishes. I think Paul Stamets has a video where he did it, and he just kept dropping his keys and picking it up, dropping his keys and picking it up. Like it just kept looping. And it was so uncomfortable because he'd get to something and it wouldn't finish, get to something that wouldn't finish. And so, yeah, it's an interesting medicine. I only work with it on a small doses. I don't, yeah. And I've never experienced the large dose. I have heard the stories and I choose not to. Like I do 5-MeO over that. So
Yeah, I did remember the, I think he was on Joe Rogan podcast where he talked about that experience.
yeah.
So I definitely remember that. That's, I think, how a lot of people found out about, it. That was a crazy story though. Like he
Yeah.
just kept
I
looping.
was like, huh, okay.
It's a pretty funny visual though. Just imagine someone walking all the way down the street, just keep
Yeah. Dropping the keys, picking it up,
dropping
dropping
the
the
keys,
keys.
picking it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does the ego dissolution state has any like real need for a cathartic healing experience? Like, is that something that most people can like get through life without experiencing, to like experience like some really, really deep like mind shift, healing, full understanding, full remembrance? Is that something like I think you should eventually aim for that, if that makes sense?
I think if it's a calling, go to
Mm.
the medicines. If it's not, we have fully capable of, I work with so many people in their dreams and start waking that part up of our life, because to me, that was the original journey. And when we start working in that state, it actually can start feeling like that opening and that connection. Just even beginning working with them cognitively, we increase. Intuitively, we increase. We begin trusting in ourselves more. So, yes, there are other avenues. It was Carl Jung who said the two pathways to the soul are the imagination and the dream world. And so, I think working in that world and opening that up, which is right there for us. And it's not something that we don't do, but it's about working with it. I think it was Keith Richards, Rolling Stones. He would record himself sleeping. And he said, most times boring. I just, snored all the time. But this one time, he had the first line to Satisfaction, the song Satisfaction, and then wrote it out from there. So much is happening when we sleep that if we start waking that up and we're not really being called to the medicines, that's a powerful journey in itself.
Yeah, I really love dreams. Lucid dreaming is the most fun. I can never really do it consistently, but whenever I do it, first thing I always do is fly. It's
Yeah,
just fun to
isn't that?
fly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's so fun. Um, so in that state of ego dissolution, what's the last perception? Like, what is it just pure perception in all senses, since it's no longer confined to the ego identity of the body? Like, what's left after that? process?
When you come back online, or when you,
Well, when you're on that side of like,
oh,
yeah,
yeah, the oneness, the
the,
spaciousness, the
yeah,
disintegration of the body. I don't even know if I have words. Words are through the rational mind, through the ego. So it's difficult to explain it. But there's this, at first, it's complete fear because the ego does not want to let go. But then it's this feeling of spaciousness, of complete opening where there's no end to anything and you're not in that solid form. You're not you. And I don't know if I'm even giving it justice, but I did record my first full release, and I was looking around in the most awe, the smile on my face, like all the stuff that we carry, all the heaviness wasn't there. The denseness. And I rose up and I put my hand in this really weird space and started rocking back and forth. And when I kind of found what that was later, it was the one-handed lotus used to praying to the mother for guidance on how to live through this humanness that we're in. And then when you come back, it can be really destabilizing because all of a sudden you're in this really heavy, we're super heavy, we're super dense and heavy. And coming back to that, it's funny, my hand shakes and would not stop shaking. Like it was just moving energy and resistance out. So again, it's like your particles in a sense. There's no identity. It's nothingness, right? It's the nothingness. And again, words don't give it justice until you kind of experience it.
yeah. I'm all the way there with you because it's like everything that comes out of my mouth is created to explain everything that you can see in front of you, not everything that you experience over there. So it's like I completely get it. I've told this story on my podcast a few times. I haven't formally made a video about it, but I guess eventually I will. But I was working with psilocybin mushrooms, only 3.5 dose, so wasn't even the heroic dose. And still to this day, that breakthrough that I have still remains to be the most powerful experience I've ever had, even including ayahuasca, because I I don't know, like I've looked up the word samadhi and the definition, and
Mhm.
I checked every single box, and I'm like, was this not samadhi state? Like
Yeah.
I sat down and I said, I'm not leaving this spot, and I'm meditating this entire trip, and the experience was bananas. The chaos of the mind. I was experiencing things that I've never like you never thought your mind was capable of because you never sat down long enough to just be with it. And it was just like different languages. And it was just like, I'm not leaving. And I just sat there. And then eventually it's just like I clicked out of this reality and I clicked into something else. And it was just tranquility. It was just the most
Mm.
beautiful tranquility I've ever. It's like only tranquility exists there. It was so mind blowing. Like that's all it was there. It was just like if there was a TV station and it was only tranquility, that was playing there all the time. And it was just beautiful. And I came back here and I was like, what was that? I'm like,
Yeah.
and the mind is like,
Why am I here?
yeah, the mind is just trying to like rationalize it. Like, no, you just made that up. And it's just like, it was
that
like,
that's the thing, right?
yeah,
That's where we have to, like, that's the trust in self. Like, you know
oh
what? This is
yeah,
what I experienced because this is it. And that is how the dream world works too. It's this is what I experienced. This is it.
yeah,
And then trying to, because then you're like, everybody should do this. Everybody needs to do this. And we're like, and then it's like, well, wait a minute. Maybe not everybody at this moment.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
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 and that's beautifully explained. I remember my first mushroom journey was that same thing. It was like there was so much love and so much tranquility, and it's like you just keep saying, "Well, there's just love. There's just love." That's all I can say. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And of course, then the ego wants to figure it out and make sense of
I
it through
know.
the knowing and the rational mind and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the proving.
So
Yeah.
it can come to like some form of conclusion that then it strengthens its identity and
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
loop.
That's beautiful, though. I love that. And how many grams did you say?
Just 3.5. But I
I
just
know,
like
right?
to me it was like mind shifting because it really shows like, you know, everyone's like, oh, you need to take higher doses and stuff. Like I know there's you would definitely get to a different place with, you know, a higher doses and stuff. But I think like if you just sit down and just don't move and just really sit with yourself and don't give up. I mean, is that not how the Buddha experienced enlightenment? Like he just sat down
Mm.
under the Bodhi tree and he's just like, I'm not leaving.
Mm-mm.
And yeah. So, but I
No,
mean, us as we are humans right now, like we can't even go 5 minutes without even trying to grab our phone for whatever
I
notifications grabbing our
know.
attention. And
Yeah, that's why I kind of take people into their sleep world because at least then they're bypassing the rational mind. They're doing all that stuff. They're in the nothingness and things can kind of amplify up. But I think what you said is so important that less is more, right? Less is more with these medicines many, many times. It's not that, you know, we're that society that bigger and more and better is going to be the best. Less is more with these medicines. I've had experiences on a half a gram before that, you know, it's like, wow, it's only half a gram
on 5-MeO or
on mushrooms.
mushrooms. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I love them. What's your perspective on the utility of microdosing and versus macrodosing? Like when is like, oh, microdosing sounds good for this, or like macrodosing is good for this. Like,
I like everybody to start microdosing first to develop a relationship with the medicines and let's see how the medicines are going to work with you, right? I like people to like, what's going on in your life right now? Are you moving? Are you in the middle of a divorce? Are you we do not, that's not the time for a macro because it's just going to amplify and we need space. So do we have the space for a large journey? Have we developed a relationship with these medicines and ourself, right? Because we are the medicine as we are one. So I like people to start microdosing and then go into a journey if they choose, right? 3 to 6 months after that. I leaning more towards 6 months. And then from there, that relationship starts. Then maybe at that point, they might move into ascension with the 5-MeO, or maybe they'll be fine, or maybe microdosing's enough, or maybe Amanita's enough. So it's individual, but I always want people to have a relationship with the medicines first on a lower dose.
and what are some of the things that people could like see as an improvement from using microdosing? Just anecdotally using myself, my mood is way better when I microdose. I like penis envy. I like
Mm,
the strength of it because I just need a little bit and I'm good. So
okay.
like my mood is like it's very noticeable that if I go a period of time of not using it versus using it, I'm way happier, way more focused, way more like serotonin's good. Like that's just me. But what are some things that you've noticed?
A lot of more focus. Cognitively, that is increasing. And like you said, with the mood, more responding rather than reacting. Like it might be, oh, that normally would have bothered me and it didn't. Anxiety, depression, all of that, feeling more human in our homeostasis space. And my favorite for myself was creativity, just opened way it up, downloads coming in and creating from here and not trying to figure it out. So my creativity opened up a lot. That happens for a lot of my clients, where everything and manifesting, like we're so much more connected to ourselves that we're creating through the soul and we're manifesting and things are just coming out. So serendipities start happening and we start paying attention to birds. As you see my hummingbirds, I have quite a connection to them since I started with the medicine. And squirrels and moving at a slower pace, not so rush. And we might change our job, right? We may not like, oh, I kind of don't like my job. I think I want to do this. And so it's a space of balance between ourselves. I've also seen like physical pain start shifting and moving. Our coping mechanisms like food or alcohol addiction and moving into those can begin to shift. So, I mean, I could list a whole bunch, but I'll stop.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I definitely feel like it kind of brings like a higher level of awareness to my everyday life that I wouldn't have had otherwise if I didn't use this. So
like your senses open, like you smell more and hear like all that. And it's not that you notice it in the moment. It almost feels like you look back and go, oh, that has changed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As an entrepreneur, obviously disclaimer, this is just what I use. It's not what everyone else uses. But as an entrepreneur, what I've found is a tech stack that I really love is that I work with psilocybin, alpha GPC and L-tyrosine. And it's like that combination, like it really helps me focus and really lock in and do whatever I need to do. So I love mushrooms. I remember the first time I took like the heroic dose of penis envy. Whoa. It was like,
that could probably be big.
Yeah. It was just like, it was like starting to reach that point. Like if I took enough, I probably would have had an out of body experience because like you start to like observe reality differently. Like I got to the point where I was like, I was asking myself, I'm like, who created the language that I'm using? It's like, who created this? Is like, what version of me created this? It wasn't even like a who. It's like, what version of me created?
Start going down those rabbit holes, right? Yeah,
exactly.
Well, and I loved how you said that when you're in that large dose at 3.5 grams, that you experience different languages.
Yeah.
And with the light language that I speak, I look at that as a universal language and one we used to always speak, we've just forgotten. And that has come up in mine a lot, like where you're hearing it and you know it. Like you may not, it's like you just kind of know what they're saying. Yeah. Regardless of the speech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you give us an example of like how that sounds for people who've never heard
Oh, you want to hear it?
Yeah,
okay.
Light language.
Okay. Ni hakara kinoko ukua shakanu shahua mahakane ki o shakna kataka umakoa hailati inake shoku umakoa karaki shakna shushua.
That's it. That's exactly how I was talking for sure.
Oh yeah, well we're all capable of it. Yeah, it's funny when I do that, my body just because it
starts. Yeah, every time I do that, it takes me back to like an Atlantean past life.
Oh, does it? Yeah. It's funny. I had a client with an Atlantean past life come through in her journey, and she goes, "You're going to ask me about my breathing, but I was learning how to rebreathe underwater again from when I was because I was watching your breathing. It was just I was just remembering how I used to breathe underwater."
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's wow. Yeah. Oh, dang, I forgot the question. It was right there. It was something about like transformation. Like how do we live in our like divine path? Like if there if there's a time period where you're planning your lifetime and you say, I'm going to do this, not everyone subscribes to the same belief, that's fine. But let's say if that was a scenario and you're saying, I want to do this, how do you like make sure that you're in that alignment? Like, let's say, for instance, I was trying to be a lawyer. I obviously should not be a lawyer, but
I thought, me too. I went to school and I'm like, this is, yeah, what's that
yeah,
again?
it's just like, there's the path that your ego wants to do because it thinks that this is what you should be doing, and then there's like the path that angels and guides, they're all trying to help you get to, because that's actually the path of least resistance, that have the most abundance, that has the most financial stability, has the most everything that you're looking for. But it's just like your ego's like, I think I should do this though. It's like, how do you get to that right path?
Yeah, and that's the core of that, is looking at our worthiness, um, faith and centeredness in ourselves versus the conditioning of pleasing. And well, it's only one way to make money. There's only one way to do this, and I should do this because my dad did this, my grandfather did this, and blah 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 blah. And so this is what I need to be. I feel it's really, first of all, getting very centered with ourselves, going inward and getting very, very comfortable with ourselves, and doing that. Don't chase the healing, allowing it to come. Don't fix yourself. It's the remembering. And then you become, I don't even know when it shifted for me, but there was this part of me was like, oh, well, I can just do, this is what I want to do. And this feels like the path, and it doesn't feel like a brick wall, and it doesn't exhaust you. It doesn't drain you. There's not burnout. And so I think sitting with asking, if I could do anything and money wasn't involved, what would that be? And then sitting with that. And then where's the resistance? And are we making a path to please and to prove and to get? Or are we doing it because it's actually our soul's calling?
I really love that question. I've definitely asked myself that question very often, because you can really get lost in like this hustle and grind culture. It's just like, if money was not a thing that you had to worry about, what would you be doing with your life? What would you do? What would bring you the most purpose? What would bring you the most passion? What would you love to do? And the answer is usually always what you should be doing. And
It is.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you had asked me 10 years ago if I'd be working in plant medicine, I'm like, oh, you're crazy. No way. No, I'm not going to be working with psychedelics. Mm-mm. And so there's energies that are just waiting to come in once we get out of our own way, once we look at our belief system around money, once we look at what it means to be fully aligned. I think we have an idea what it is to be aligned, but what does that mean? And it is going to mean moving through fear, right? And becoming fully into that present. And if we're in our heads, like, well, I got to do this, and what if this, and what if this, and that what if game, then don't create right then. I don't know, go jump out of an airplane or something. Get your, I did that when I was too much in my head. That's why I said that. But like, go watch a bee on a flower or something. Get out of your head until you can come back into the heart place. And then start small and watch how it unfolds.
Excellent. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Start small and watch how it unfolds. I love that. These are the last few questions I usually ask all my guests. What does love mean to you?
Love is an energy. And when we are fully aligned, we are fully living the human experience. We are embodied in our bodies. We know our own power, our own value, and you can feel it here. It's an opening here, right? It's a vulnerability. We're not afraid to be vulnerable. And yeah, I mean, I can feel it now. Just actually, ever since I light language, this is really open and it's vibrating. So it's a feeling, and it's feeling the whole body.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And what does the sun represent to you? Sun in the sky.
Mm. Oh yes, I love that question. I love the name of your podcast, by the way, too. The sun to me, well, I work with the lunar solar loop, right? Where the moon and the sun and the sleep and the wake state. The sun to me is like the grandfather. The moon is the grandmother, the feminine, the masculine. It's restoration, it's regrowth, it's the sun resets our rhythm, our natural rhythm inside. So it feeds us and restores ourselves back to balance.
Yes, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have any type of like upcoming events or anything that you want to relate to the audience?
Yeah, I run a seasonal dream alchemy series where we microdose. We do the solar lunar loop. We're working with waking states and navigating our sleeping states so we can wake up that power. And I have my fall one coming up at the end of October where we're harvesting everything we've created over the summer, but I usually run those each season. I have run retreats. I have a retreat coming up in the spring of 2026, a men's retreat, actually, and we will be working with the medicines in that. And yeah, and who knows? I'm sure some more stuff's going to pop up. And I also offer one-on-one and group events. So
Excellent. Well, Lynda, I have absolutely loved this conversation. This is all just I love psychedelics. They're so powerful, and I could just talk about them all day. So, and I definitely hope to have you on again so you can talk more about this.
oh, I'd love it.
Absolutely. Where can people find you at? Where can they reach out to
Yeah.
you at?
lwsampire.com. Last name's Samphire. And all my information's there, all my handles, all my social medias and everything. So
Excellent. I'll be putting links to find Lynda in the description box below. Thank you all for listening. Praise the sun. We'll see you in the next one.
thank you.